Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back to the channel. This is the video that you've all been waiting for. This is the video where I can just lay it all out and I can just pontificate on my opinions. Again, my opinion, this wanker with the hat, and someone's going to say, who's the friggin' wanker with his shirt buttoned to the top wearing the Homburg hat? Who is that guy? Why should we listen to anything he says? They're absolutely right. But so I will probably direct part of this video to my own wankerism. I love that I can use wankerism and the term wanker, or if you're up north, wanka. Wanka, I love that term. I've been using it since 1978, so it's nothing new to me. But if you're new to the channel, this is about my third or fourth annual Wankers in Music 2024. But I am doing the big shift, the swing. I'm changing it up this year. So it's a little bit of a bait and switch. You're not going to get the top wankers in music business of 2024 as you did last year, as you did the year before, as you did the year before that. You're going to get something a little different about bitchiness. And in a way, I'm going to reach out to my audience there and point fingers, not specifically to names, certain people. That's not my job, and I don't want to diss anyone personally. You may feel that you're mentioned in here peripherally, but I'm tired of always including Morrissey year after year after year. Ultimately, he's one of the top three wankers every year because he always does wankery. He's full of wankerness. And I'm using the term, I'm sure, the tense and the verb, adjective, noun, all that stuff. I'm using it totally wrong. And someone who's better at linguistics and will tell me that and explain it in the gallery or in the comments today. And that's fine. This is very free form. I have a list of topics here I'm going to talk about. But aside from that, nothing here is scripted. I have a few notes here. Morrissey again. And I mean, really, the top wanker of the year, I just noticed today, if I were to do the number one wanker in the music industry, just because he seems to be a poster child. And I don't know if I can even pronounce his name right, but he doesn't deserve me pronouncing his name right. His name is Daniel George Ek. E.K. Ek, and that's a perfect name for the CEO, the head of Spotify. The guy was born in 1984, I believe, and now he's worth $4.8 billion. That was announced this morning as I was kind of getting ready, getting my juices going, having my double shot latte. I was getting my juices ready for this. I saw that news headline come across that he's worth $4.8 billion on the backs of working musicians. To me, the whole streaming thing is good for a little test thing, but then you should go out and buy. Streaming is essentially free, and I'm sorry, for paying $10 to $15 a month to get almost all the music you want to borrow, that's like bullshit as far as I'm concerned. That's a wankerism. So that's kind of the way this is going. But, again, Spotify, this guy Daniel would be number one because he's making $4.8 billion this year, or worth that, while musicians are getting $800 for 6 million streams or something, or not even that. They'll get a check for $14.95 for having a few 100,000 streams. But that is a common thing, same with Ticketmaster and those kind of things, pricing. The people in the record business, there's so many people you could point to in music that are wankers. But again, I am turning this one inside out this year. So the top 10 wanker list 2024 in no particular order. And I'm just going to do a loose, think of this as a slow blues jam or a solo in a jazz piece, avant-garde, obtuse mix, or just a really great guitar riff on a rock album. Okay, in no particular order, I'm baiting and switching you because this is not what you asked for or what you expected. I am getting tired of bitching on the music forums, whether it's the Hoffman forums, the Facebook music and audiophile forums, the band fan forums, whether it's the Beatles or Springsteen or Bob Dylan. And let me say this right off. Let's talk about Bob Dylan here. Yesterday, I saw the new Bob Dylan biopic. I absolutely loved it. But for the last several weeks, I've been reading a lot of people who haven't even seen the movie. There are some people who have seen it, and some respected critics and people that I like their writings, I like their opinions, but are just dumping on this wonderful film as far as I'm concerned, this biopic. Oh, they switched around this timeline. This didn't happen then. The most, I would say glaring, but that seems like a negative. But to me, a biopic, you have to make it, package it for the audience. It's not a fucking documentary. It's not a biography, a well-researched biography. It is Hollywood rendition. I think Lawrence of Arabia was based on reality, everything in that movie. I mean, you could go on and on, whether it's a music bio or anything else. It introduces people to artists they may not know, especially if an artist like Bob Dylan, in this case, generational. I mean, he's been around for 60 plus years, almost 70 years as a musician, more than that. Jesus Christ. I mean, since 1960, 62, his first album came out. Anyway, I love the biopic. The most glaring change, and again, adapted for a movie, is if you know the famous year 1965, Dylan Goes Electric, and the famous Royal Albert Hall concert with the band where second half he goes electric. Well, first of all, we all know now that was recorded in Manchester, not the Royal Albert Hall. So I put that in quotes that it's the Royal Albert Hall. And someone in the audience yells out, Judas, and Dylan says, I don't believe you. Doesn't sound like anything like Dylan. That scene in this movie, they combine that with the infamous Newport 1965 festival, Pete Seeger, and the whole folk scene went bananas because Dylan Goes Electric there. With Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper and the band there. And it's wonderfully portrayed in this biopic. But they use the Judas scene there. So they combine two different places. The movie does not go to England. They don't travel to England for the sake of the storyline. That's used as the reaction to Dylan Going Electric. Big fucking deal. The music is done really well. In fact, this is a music-centric. I got choked up during scenes with Joan Baez, during scenes with Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I want to see it again in the theater. I suggest you go see it in the theater with an audience. It's a crowd pleaser. Bring your kids, even if they're not into Dylan. Obviously, the young actor Timothy Shamalama Ding Dong, who plays Bob Dylan, is brilliant. He doesn't try to mimic Dylan, but he's got the nuances and he's got the persona. And it's not a whitewash of Bob Dylan by any stretch of the imagination. And to me, everyone is really good in it. Pete Seeger, Edward Norton definitely deserves high praise in this. And he gets the essence of Pete Seeger just beautifully. Great movie. One of the best movies of the year. So, but all these people in the forums, and they're like, especially the people who say they won't go see the movie. I won't go see that Hollywood piece of shit. They whitewash everything. Same director did the Johnny Cash movie. Did a great job with Joaquin Phoenix in that movie. I adored that too. But it's Hollywood. You go to this to get a take on it. Then hopefully you go research. You watch documentaries. But even Dylan, he talks about, even in this film, and if you know the history of Bob Dylan, talks about growing up in the circus, in the carnival, or hanging out in the carnival, working in the carnival. I mean, his own story that he presents is semi-bullshit. So for people to jump on Hollywood for doing this portrayal and taking a direction, no direction home, so to speak, and presenting it, I think it's brilliant. So I'm going to dump on all these people who are so into the Beatles, so into Dylan, so into Springsteen, and they nitpick every little thing where they lose sight of the music and the spirit of what was being done here. And I applaud the team that did this movie, and I think they pulled it off quite nicely. Is it a definitive Dylan story? It's a moment from 1961 to 1965. It's a very strong period of Bob Dylan, coming at grips with fame and the people around him. And Dylan is weird. We all know he's kind of weird, and it showcases that. You actually see that done nicely, not overkill, but the music, the working on the songs in the studio, playing on the acoustic guitar and electric, it's just brilliant there. So again, bitching in this video, I want to bitch about bitching. So again, someone's going to say, Mazzy, you're bitching, you're doing the same thing, you're poking at us, you're dumping on us, and you do the same shit all the time. Finally, something that is true. I'm a bit of a wanker here, okay? I'm wanking on the wankers, but I am guilty as charged as well. So I'm not beyond this. Now, in terms of the bitching about records coming out, the vinyl resurgent, there's a whole thing, the term that I can't stand, the little two words, cash grab. Cash grabs. The people that constantly, as a cheap, lazy excuse, responding to when a box set comes out, when Sean Lennon and the team put out the Cube for Mind Games, or Danny Harrison did the Uber box, or the Rolling Stones issue some expanded set that not some people want, but other people want it. People say cash grab. Well, the fucking record business is there to promote their artists, to sell as many records as possible. Yes, you got the streaming. They're making more money there, and that's, what I started talking about, the streaming thing, where artists kind of get screwed in some cases, unless you're, I don't know, some major Taylor Swift for now or someone, or even the Beatles possibly. But it's their job to promote and expand these things. And so there are reissues and remixes and remasters and color variants. You don't have to buy them. I mean, a collector like me who's obsessed with the Beatles does get sucked into this, and I admit that. But why complain about it? Move on. There's so much great music today. I just watched a video, the top albums of the year, top favorite albums by my friend John, the Digital Gramophone. Go watch it. My guess is that 90% of you have only heard of 3 or 4 of the artists on his list. Go buy new music. And that gets me into the other thing. Aside from the bitching about cash grabs and limited editions, and buy some new music. This is where I get pissed off at older people my age that complain there's no good music out there. And they complain about the cash grabs, yet they buy, 45 RPM versions of the same fucking records because they're audiophile that they've had for 40 years, or they buy the Rhino Hi-Fis, which are the same records. Those are great records. And it's the job of those labels to reintroduce them and to make beautiful editions with wonderful covers and all analog mastering when they can. That's one segment of it. I think that's wonderful. I think they do a service to an audience. If you think that's a cash grab, move on. Buy one of these new artists. You can get these new albums for $20 or $30. Or, you could buy a CD. There's nothing wrong with CDs. I, prefer vinyl, but I'm certainly not against compact discs. So I think the wankerism here and the bitching is about these people bitching there's no good music. And they don't even try to listen to good music. They'll buy the same shit. Go listen to those great records. I probably posted, 6 artists in my top best of the year that are fairly new over the last decade. I consider that fairly new. Some artists that were just introduced to me this year who have had records out for 10 years or 8 years. And I try to explore. Do I explore everything? Obviously not. But I do reach out. Now, I know people like to sit tight and are comfortable with these great records that came out in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And it was a golden era. I'm going to admit that. I'm not an idiot. I love all those bands, or a lot of those bands that came out then. And, frankly, I get sucked into, do I need those copies again? Probably not, but at least I try to listen to new music. So I get upset, and I'm calling wanker on those people that say there's no good records out, there's no good music. Back in my day, 1965, it was like help and I'm down. And that's all they want to hear is man buys ring, woman throws it away, same old shit happen every day, I'm down. Paul McCartney song B-side to Help. So there you have that. And that leads me into the people I like to dump on certain artists, specifically the pop singers or the big giant sellers that are at the top of the charts. Now, we're in a golden age of women in not just vinyl, women in music who are selling a lot. A lot of them are pop singers, yeah, but some of them are great. I happen to love Billie Eilish. I think she and her brother do fantastic records. She's the real deal. Listen to her records. Don't just, say, I heard one thing and I hated it. Well, you don't have to like it. I'm not particularly a big fan of Taylor Swift, but I think she has done more good for the music industry and obviously women in music. Someone like Sabrina Carpenter, I don't get her at all. She just kind of came out of nowhere. I have tried to listen to her stuff. It doesn't appeal to me. Doesn't mean she shouldn't be there. And she kind of seemed like she just showed up out of nowhere. But obviously I haven't followed her for the last few years. But there's some great artists. Another one I posted in my top 10 list, I think it was in the top 10, but at least my top best of the year, was the Beyonce, quote, country record, Cowboy Carter. I love that record. Now, it's not a pure country record. There are country elements in it. But people dumping on it, that my guess is they haven't listened to the album straight through. It is a wonderful record. So I call wankerism, the wankers, on the viewers that I have here and the people that write in those forums saying Beyonce's record is bullshit. She tries to co-opt the country. Look, she doesn't have to co-opt anything. Whatever she does, if she does it well, people are going to respond to it. And they did. That's an excellent album. Now, I have complained a little bit or pointed a little kind of poke from my thing. Maybe that's me being a wanker. Do we really need, does any artist need 20 producers and 40 people in the credits or 50 people or 100 people that seem like it's a major motion picture or a Marvel movie where you got every digital artist included in the credits? That's kind of bullshit too. So, but aside from that, the results, I don't care how it was created, what they mixed up, what musicianship, what production techniques, ultimately is listening to the album. And I think that is a fantastic album. So I kind of call wanker on you folks that bitch about new artists. You don't have to like them, but aside from those big artists that I was talking about, the big pop artists that are on the charts now, most of those women artists, there's all these artists like John Digital Gramophone, these alt country, bluegrassy, North Carolinian collective and, vampire weekend revival type bands. If you like the record, enjoy it. Expand on it. Go check some of these records out. Go watch John. I'm going to put a link to John's video. He'll probably be embarrassed that I do this. And watch it. And he has sound clips. Listen to those some of those bands. And I bet you out of the 24 he does, there'll probably be a handful that you might like. There's some that I discovered there that I'm going to jump in on. So that's that. Now, bitching. Again, I wrote here bitching about deluxe editions. I really kind of covered that. Don't buy a deluxe edition. Now, this goes into the bitching about the hybrid editions. Now, there's some validity to this one, okay? But, heads explode. If you're a vinyl guy and you have to buy a Talking Heads or a what's the band? The Replacements box set, and there are CDs and a vinyl disc on it. Why the fuck do I have to buy CDs when I want the vinyl? Or why the fuck do I have to buy vinyl when I only want the CDs? Heads exploded. People are so crazed about this. Now, sell the CDs or sell the vinyl or trade it in or something. You know, it's more economical for a label to do fewer variations in that respect. Now, doing color variations of vinyl is a whole different thing. That's not as cost prohibitive as doing, you know, the vinyl version and the CD version. And it happens, and people do that. You know, but people's heads explode. I don't want to have that. It takes up too much space. Now, again, this is where I'm going to hit the wanker thing back to me, because I have been targeted, rightly so, but I bitched for years about the UHQR and the one-step box sets. Ironically, both those companies have shrunk the box sets. And whenever I show a box set, like in my recent box set videos, there's always a couple of wankers that will comment, Mazzy, I thought you hated box sets. I hate box sets when there's one record in a box set, and it can hold 5 or 6. That's the thing that pissed me off. So, yeah, bringing a little bitty, making it a little bitty, and putting a record in, that's much better. That's more cost effective. You know, we're bitching about space all the time. That's another thing. People bitching about space. Now, I am fortunate enough. I have a big house, and I have room, but I'm really, except for my main stereo, my main living space upstairs, where I have some flip bins of records. This room here, this small, it's really small. When people show up in person, they said, oh my God, it looks so big on video. It's so small. What is it? 8x8? Is that something like that? But it's jam-packed. And I have the mantra that we created in our mid-size record store back in the 1970s. My friend Jazz Shit Brooks, my friend Vernon, we worked together, and we would get from the distributor from our, we were like a small chain, the Record Factory, and we would get like, for instance, Elvis Presley month, the month before he died, we got a box of 25 records of every single Elvis Presley record. Oh my God, where are you going to put them? Well, the mantra is there's always room. There's always room. Remember that, the mantra, there's always room. Do you have to get another Calyx? These aren't Calyx, these are Bondi, which they discontinued 10 years ago or so by IKEA. Unfortunately, you can't get these anymore. They're more finished than the Calyx. I get asked that a lot. That's not a wanker question. And I don't mind questions, and I don't mind disagreements and disagreeing with me. But there's ways to imagine, to expand and move things around. Sometimes you have flip bins, and I've showed this before. I have these kind of, these boxes that are made up here. You can see the ones down there. Can you see them here? Or these? It's hard to see now because they look like they're just piled there, but they're flip bins. So I have my Tone Poets down there in a flip bin. I have some box sets in a flip bin. I have records to be cleaned and filed in a flip bin. You kind of, it's an organizational, mental state you have to put yourself in. Ask for help. Maybe I should do consulting on how to organize your room for a small Patreon fee or something. I haven't started Patreon yet. I'm thinking about it. We'll see. But people bitch. I don't have any room. Why do they have to do that? I understand that. Then maybe it's time to weed out some records. You know, I do that occasionally, not as much as I should, but I do it. So that's another one. I'm going these in different orders. Bitching about there's no good artists or albums. I've already covered that. Bitching about new pop artists, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan, Dua Lipa. I've talked about that. These great women in music. It's great that women are in the forefront up there on the charts. Now, granted, all those top, if I looked at the charts, there's probably a lot of stuff that doesn't interest me as much. And as I said, with John and other friends I have, they're open to newer music and newer bands and different genres, whether it's jazz or alt country, Americana, or avant-garde. I, you know, as straight as I am in my musical taste, and I know I've had people say, all you're showing is that boomer shit. Well, it's not true. It's not all the stuff I'm showing. Yes, I talk about San Francisco. I get mocked for that constantly. All you talk about is another fucking San Francisco story. Great time, great place. I do. But I enjoy that. So again, I'm doing the weave. We know what the weave is now in a conversation. You kind of go around and come around. Okay. No new artist. Okay. Here's another one. Bitching about shipping. Now, I think that's a valid bitch, but it kind of goes on so fucking much. It's so tiresome. Shipping threads, like at the Hoffman forums. My record just showed up at the Dallas hub, the Chicago hub, at the Orly Field in Paris, France. My record's there. It's stuck there, and UPS is holding it. Now, back in my day, we didn't, obviously it's a different world now because as we all know, when record stores were king in the 60s and 70s, even into the 80s, hardly anyone bought records by mail. Of course, unless you were the Columbia Record House or the RCA BMG Record Club or a CD club, you went into a store and bought a record. Now, we all know that a lot of people in a lot of areas don't have stores to buy records, so they have to order online. A lot of the companies have these, whether it's Universal or Warner Music, a lot of stuff is bought. And there are labels like the Rhino, Hi-Fi, like certain other labels that the only place you can get some of these specific lines are ordering direct through the labels, direct to consumer, they call it. Am I a fan of that? I see why they do it. I wish they would expand it, open it up. But even a lot of stores don't carry the records. Very few stores carry everything. Gone are the days, with a few exceptions, of the Tower Records. Tower Records, their whole premise was, in theory, they would carry every single record in print or could get it pretty quickly. Obviously, you can go to your mom and pop and theoretically they can order it for you. But the distribution system is so bizarre and so weird. And when someone bitches about, I ordered this online, and this is where I will agree with the bitching about shipping threads and comments on Facebook groups about customer service. I think all the labels should have better customer service people. I volunteered for someone, not volunteered for free, but I thought, as a part-time gig, I would kind of like to do that, be the person to respond, because the bitching, which is I agree with, is when you reach out to a label because you have a defective record or you have a lost shipment or something, and you don't get a response within, say, 48 hours. There's no excuse, 72 hours tops. There's no excuse in this day and age that you can't get a response quickly. And, shit happens. And some of these companies do substandard packaging. And we've seen, split seams. I mean, MoFi had it for years. The way that the Stoughton covers are sometimes, if they're not packed well, maybe they should automatically, have the album outside the sleeve. Or maybe it's time to move on from those higher Stoughton type or MoFi type covers that are just so heavy. The stress is there and they break apart. And people obviously paying $40 or more for a record expect a pristine record. Now, again, the vinyl is an imperfect medium. So shit is going to happen. And I know people don't like hearing this. I'm convinced a good third of the people getting defective records, a third of those records are not defective as people's equipment setup. People get so defensive of that. Even back in the 70s, we'd get 100 to 150 records returned every week in our medium-sized store. And luckily in those days, you could ship them back to the distributor and we'd get credit for them. And a lot of times when we would have the time and put it on our store turntable, they play perfectly. People like the Beatle mono Capitol Records American box is a good example. Those records are cut hot. People are bitching. Their turntables are going crazy. Their setups are off. Their turntable's not capable of really kind of handling the hot cut records, and they're returning them. And to me, if you get more than two problems on an issue, you should move on and try something else. Now, there are examples of records that there's a bad batch. That is real. But there's a bit of this wankerism that I just like, I can't stand this shipping and bitching about stuff, because we never used to have that before. But with the internet, of course, it brings, I mean, you wouldn't have idiots like me up here complaining about you complaining, right? So as much as I'm kind of pointing at you in wankerist terms here because you complain about shipping and defective records, I'm guilty as hell about that too. And I find I don't get a lot of bad records. I have an MC card, my table, my Riga P8 is very forgiving. And maybe I'm a little more forgiving in general. If I have a click here, I don't freak out and like bust a gasket, blow a gasket, you know. Records aren't perfect, but there are people that, you know, when I read these forums, the most wankerish shit on these forums. Oh, there's this one click on Waiting for a Son on part 2 when Jim Morrison, like, you know, puts down his bottle of Southern Comfort and they just freak out, and then it explodes, and the other person listens for that aberration, and they listen for that fucked up part. That's the thing. When you read someone posting about something, people start going looking for that problem, and they hear it, or they think they hear it. And I'm going to be vilified for saying this kind of shit. Like, just enjoy the fucking music. Crank it up. I mean, obviously, if you're a soft classical passage or ambient record and there's a constant repetitive click, you know, you got to do something with it. But again, I will say, you know, this is where I am going to say the wankerism in the record industry or the distributors. Remember, just because you have, say, let's just use Rhino Hi-Fi as an example. Rhino Hi-Fi is a part of Warner Music, and they have distribution centers. I don't know the details here. You could pick BMG as well. Some of them overlap, but some of them distribution. They're not just sending you that Doors box, or they're not just sending you that Kraft Records collection. They're sending hundreds of thousands of records out. It's not just the audiophile ones that you paid a little more for. Should there be a separate kind of shipping thing? They definitely should use better boxes if that's the case. But it's not just about that one thing. But you're right. I will agree, and I'll pull back the wankerism towards you and say there needs to be better communication. So I will kind of throw a wanker thing in the direction. And if any of you say I'm just sticking up for the man, the record, I'm not. But I'm just saying it gets tiresome. Play the music, maybe, and I'm guilty of it too. I go in the Hoffman forums and I'm there all the time. In fact, I got banned from a thread, actually the Rhino Hi-Fi thread, because some guy was jumping all over things, and I basically called him out, like I'm doing here. But this is my channel, so I can do whatever I want here. I have to be careful because there are rules, and I did break the rules on that one particular thread. So I'm persona non grata on that thread. I can be on the Doors specific box thread, but not the overall Rhino Hi-Fi thread, okay? So I'm kind of winding down here. So what else do I have? Bitching about the value of records. Discogs music seems to be secondary. Okay. The whole Discogs thing is interesting because, you know, there's people that complain Discogs. Now, I will admit, and I've talked to some of the people at Discogs, and they're supposedly coming with a new app, because I still think their app is kind of not great. Definitely not great. And I don't know what's happening. So if you're watching Discogs, what is the update? I know it's going to be sent a beta testing that's out there. I've never got it. So I don't know what's happening there. It's kind of a wonky app, and it crashes. And when you go back, like if you make a little mistake or something and you want to do the reverse button, you got to start all over. I don't like that. There seems to be a better way. But, you know, again, I'm not a programmer, so I can be a wanker bitching on stuff I don't know about because I'm not a programmer or a coder. So, but the people blaming about, oh, I buy from Discogs and this fucking person sent me the wrong thing. Absolutely. But that's not Discogs' fault. Now, people complain about I don't sell a lot on Discogs, but they complain about the way they compute and they take a cut of, and they take a cut of shipping. And part of that reason, and not defending that, but the reality of that is there's some shit ass sellers as well as buyers, we know. And what they've done is they'll lower the price or vice versa, put the shipping price higher or something, so they'll take a cut or they won't take a cut. I forgot how it works out, but there's a reason for that. I think it's kind of weird, but once I read the explanation, I understood it better. But I've bought things, and I think twice, maybe I bought 200 records on Discogs since they've been around, maybe. Some to labels like Analog Africa. Oh no, that's Bandcamp. But anyway, through Discogs, I maybe bought 200 records, and I've had two problem issues. I reached out to the seller, and I got it resolved. But I know I have a friend who got screwed. Someone bought it and swapped the record out, returned it. I don't know what the answer is. It's kind of like, there's always going to be assholes, wankers, buyers, as well as sellers. And that's the nature, that's long before Discogs. You could have dealt with that with ads in Goldmine. You could do that in a store that you don't like, that won't take your return back. There's shit ass people everywhere. So, people complaining about it, like on and on about Discogs is a piece of, it does a service. I'm using it mainly for cataloging. Again, I don't buy and sell a lot there. And we get a good idea of our value. The whole idea about values, you're never going to get, like my value right now. I have I did a video on it. I have 3/4 of my section, my records in Discogs. I still have another quarter to go. And I haven't done any of my Beatle wall here. And it's about $380,000 on the high side. No way in hell am I going to get that ever, or the mid price. But that gives you an idea. It's kind of like, okay, I have a lot of records. If I could sell them all right, that, believe me, if someone want to come by and pay $380,000 for this collection, if the check clears, it's yours at this point in my life. And as much as I love these records, I'm out of here. I'm going to, as I said before, Porto, Portugal or somewhere like that, and sit and have Campari and soda every afternoon by the seashore. Oh, man. Okay. I think we're getting there. I think that's about it. This wanker video is probably not what most of you expected. It's gone on for we're coming up to 40 minutes. It's just a way for me to kind of vent. And I just want you to know these kind of videos, this video in particular, is for entertainment purposes only. If you take this shit too seriously, I think that's the problem I have, that some people will comment, the commenters I'm kind of going at, will get on my thing and comment and be too fucking serious. So those commenters, those trolls, are the biggest fucking wankers in the internet on YouTube. Trolling is these people, they hide behind phony names. They never show their face. They never show their name. They tell, like, this guy doesn't know anything about music. He's just pontificating of a couple years he lived in San Francisco. He never went to the Last Waltz. He never went to Altamont. Fuck you, you cock-sucking trolls. And I know I'm feeding you by even responding to you. And some of the commenters will say, Mazzy, you don't have to defend yourself. It's not. This is a venting. This is the end of year event. We always want the kind of good kumbaya thing at it's going to be a new wonderful year. It's going to be a shit show on January 20th. But I promised myself I wouldn't talk about politics. But this year was a fantastic year for music. And I'm going back with the weave again, going back to the comments. I appreciate the comments. And I've been told by some people that I don't respond to all the comments. And I just want to tell you, I try to respond to a lot of the comments here. But first of all, a couple of realities. This is not an excuse, this is a reality. Sometimes comments show up on your phone in the app. Sometimes they show up on your computer, your laptop, and they're not in the same place. There's been notifications I've got through my email thing where I get a comment, and I go look for the comment and it's not there. It's just the way YouTube works. Sometimes it's not there. Having said that, sometimes I just get a lot of, I get kudos, and I don't always respond with a line. I might just do a heart or a thumbs up or the hat guy, which is my favorite, one of my favorites, or the peace sign. I do read all the comments that I see. But I admit I don't respond to everyone in length. Here's one thing. I try to respond when someone asks me a specific question. But again, sometimes I fail. Other people I know will point out, well, that person responds to every comment he or she gets. All the power to them. A lot of times you get all the comments, and once they go down the trail there, you kind of don't respond. So I do read it, and I want to say, to the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the likes and the views extremely. I really do. I love doing this. I love making these videos. I love talking about music. I think if you don't see the passion and what I know, then what can I say? Maybe you should just move on and watch someone else. But these trolls that really kind of just to be assholes and be the biggest fucking cock-sucking wankers there are. They have no life. They can't create their own content. They'll take clips of our content and shuffle it up and add crap to it and put it out there. They think that's the thing, but they hardly get anybody watching them anyway. So fuck you. I have to say that because this is like the therapy thing too, this wanker thing. So I am going after those people here, but I don't mind, and I applaud when you correct me, because I do trip over my lips. I get dyslexic, and I don't always express myself properly. All the stuff in my head, my lips don't keep up with my brain, and that's a problem I have. So that's the wankerish shit I have to deal with as a human being. But I'm putting myself out here and trying to showcase and share music with you and have fun. To me, it's the sense of humor and to have fun. But there's a small, very small percentage of people that take it too goddamn seriously, and they don't understand the enjoyment. And if you watched my video, the slideshow of me and my friends and new friends, people I've met in London and Portland and Seattle and San Francisco and Austin and around the places I've been in this last year and the previous years, you'll see that it's such a joy. I've met with people who make other YouTube videos, vinyl community videos. I've met people who just watch this channel and other channels. It's been the joy of my existence now since I'm semi-retired. And so all I'll say in closing is the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I love doing this. I'm going to do more in the new year. I am considering doing a Patreon thing, but it won't take away from what I do. And since I'm retired now, and the other wankerism, which I should have said before, is these fucking cocksuckers who bitch about people like me who get promotional records from labels. That's been a thing going back to the 1950s, whether it's reviewers, record store owners, record store clerks, DJs. All those promo copies are from people like me. Now, I get a lot of promos, not everything. There's a few labels I could reach out to if I want something, and I'll say, look, I don't get everything they put out, and I don't want everything they put out, but I may ask for it, and I'll listen to it. If I really don't like something, I tend to not showcase it. If I think a label fucked up, like last year I did the 2 Jellyfish records. Now, I bought those. I think Universal totally fucked the pooch on those records. But if I don't like something, I'm going to tell. If you don't believe in my reviews, hopefully you trust the way I present my taste in music. So I think most of you who are regulars can get an idea when I'm bullshitting you. And if you can't, what can I say? Go somewhere else, read a review, or you should listen to yourself. I mean, ultimately, it's your decision. Because remember, our gear, our rooms, our taste, our ears are all different. It's subjective what you like. The music first, then the sound for me, and I always said that. So the people that bitch about getting free records is bullshit. I am retired now. I have Social Security. I have my savings. My house here, and I do monetize my channel. And the money I get from my channel literally goes back into buying records to showcase, to listen to enjoy. And that's where it comes down. So I maybe do a Patreon to expand that a little bit. You can comment on that because I have to think what I can offer differently in the Patreon if I do that. Because obviously I can't just do this. I was thinking of doing a confessional where I have myself behind a screen and people come up on the other side of the screen and they said, forgive me, Mazzy, for I have sinned. It's been 4 weeks since I bought a record. And there you have it. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Mazzy loves you. Even most of the wankers, except the fucking cock-sucking trolls. See you next year.